Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. How be you?
Oh, man. It's been a long day today.
Yeah, it has,
day.
but
it's been
a
a
good
great
day.
day. And you're going to love this new guest. Hey, guess what?
What?
Yeah, that's right. Our fans, you kind of give us a little bit of a Thanksgiving praise before Thanksgiving, and we appreciate that.
Nice.
So,
nice.
we're matter of fact, this is our Thanksgiving show.
Am
I right?
We're giving thanks
Am
back.
I right? Is it next week?
I don't know what day it is.
I don't know
really
either.
Don't.
Okay. Anyway, if it's Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, people.
I think tomorrow is Thanksgiving.
Yes.
If I can read a calendar correctly.
When you're bored of your family, just put this on. We'll
there
hook you
go.
right up. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So anyway, hey, thank you guys. You guys have been knocking it out of the park. We can't thank you. I just can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without you and your friends. And, if you got some good family over on Thanksgiving, turn them on to it.
Turn Grandma onto the show.
Oh, she'll love it. She'll love it because she's hipper than you think.
And when you turn Grandma onto the show, make sure you tell her that you heard it here first.
Because she's never going to have heard a show like this. So it's definitely going to be a first for her. And a lot of times it's a first for us. So we're going to take a pause for the cause. We're going to come back with, another first guest for us and somebody that, like a lot of into the scoring and composing.
Blows my mind.
On top of, playing at the speed of light. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come right back with our guest of the week, Mr. Alex Campbell. Cast fans, I got 3 words for you right here. Vinyl Me Please. What a cool company. Every month they will send you a new release, and it's not just something you can get in the store. Everything you get from Vinyl Me Please you can't find anywhere else. They work with the artist and the record houses to come up with something really special for you. And it comes with a 12 by 12 album-inspired art print. And what I think is really cool, a paired cocktail recipe to go with your music. How cool is that? They give you things like colored vinyl, custom lyric books, exclusive artwork, personal notes from the artist, much more. And if you don't like it, they have this program called Swap, where you can actually send it back and pick from another offering in their archives. So it's a really cool thing. Just go to joinvmp.com/AAA or go to our website and hit the link. You'll really dig it. Thanks.
Hey, this is Thomas McLaughlin, formerly the guitar player of Bad for Good. You may also remember me from the Steve Vai video, The Audience is Listening. You're listening to Amps and Axes.
Okay, and we are back as promised with our guest of the week because that's what we do here. And on the line, we have from I don't know where, because it doesn't matter, guitarist extraordinaire, Mr. Alex Campbell. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here.
All right, and where do we have you from?
I am in Austin, Texas at this point.
Oh, nice.
You can almost tell by the accent.
Yeah, the Brett in Austin, yeah.
It is so. I'll just preface this whole thing because there's little glitches here and there. This is so strange. There's little dropouts sometimes and time lags and delays and cancellations and things between here and Austin. Yeah. We can talk 6 hours away to England and it's crystal clear and perfect.
It's insane, isn't it? It is so weird how Skype doesn't work in this country to other places in this country. But I can talk. We've talked we talked to Matt Wakeling in Australia for like 2 hours and never even had a glitch.
Yeah. I mean, we literally just hours ago we're talking to another guest in England.
Yeah.
Perfect. Impeccable. It's ridiculous.
It might just be the whole Texas thing, but I used to live in the country in Texas, and my internet service was totally fine. And I moved back into like the city, and it's absolutely abhorrent. It's the worst I've had in years.
Wow. Well,
I guess it's just the population. You know, it's the amount of people using the service.
Probably, yeah. And I just want to. Of course, I always have a story, and it's a little story. They're always small, but okay. I was going through, and I'm the gatekeeper of our Instagram, right? And so if you don't see a post on a day, it usually means I'm really busy doing something else. So I'm going through, and I think it's I don't know if it's Musicians Institute, or there's a couple of them that I follow that they post like these artists of the day kind of thing, right? And one day I see this guy doing probably one of the hardest John Petrucci solos I've ever. Like, I've never seen anybody else, accomplish some of the things that Alex does. And I was like, well, now I've taken the clickbait, let's say, and I'm clicking on his name, and now I'm following him, and I'm like watching all these videos, and I'm going, okay, now how do I get a hold of this guy? Because we need to talk to him, because
Mick is on the hunt.
Yeah, and he plays Kiesel guitars, Jeff. So
nice.
I'm like, well, now I really got to talk to this guy, right?
Right. Now there's double tie-in.
It's all crazy. So I'm just like, I'm out on his YouTube channel, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it's like, first we have to find out his history. Of course, it's what we do on every show. But the amount of hours that Alex has probably put into the guitar is probably staggering to most, because it looks like he doesn't ever put it down.
That's partly true, yeah.
We're going to find out how true that is.
I was going to say, so Jeff, I'm handing it over to you, buddy.
There you go. Well, Alex, before we find out how little hours you do sleep, we're gonna take a ride, like with all our guests. We're gonna take a ride in the Wayback Machine and find out where Mr. Alex Campbell came from. Like, where were you born and raised, and what got you into this wonderful, wacky world of music? So, give us some history, man.
So I was born in '91. So I'm from the UK, over in Devonshire, so where the Pirates are from. And cool. So my father's from there as well. And
pirate by trade?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like internet pirate. But so my father was a physicist and computer extraordinaire, and I took the totally wrong turn somewhere and got into music, and somehow ended up doing this instead of computing quarks and neutrinos. But awesome. I think I prefer this a little bit better. And so I started playing when I was 5 by playing classical. Wow. Yeah, I didn't like it at first, actually. I absolutely hated it. It was very much a chore. And so I did that for a couple years, and then I finally heard Pink Floyd. And my whole world kind of flipped upside down when I heard it was Comfortably Numb, and then it was the Division Bell album. That really stuck with me, and to date, that's still probably my favorite album. And so I just kind of, dropped the classical guitar and picked up a really terrible electric that I still have, I think, and started, just becoming obsessed with the instrument and what I could do with it. And
now let me stop you for a second. What got you interested in the guitar in the first place?
It would be Pink Floyd. Like, I actually hated it initially. It was
what made you pick up the classical guitar and take classical lessons for a while?
Totally my father forcing me to do it. It was so that I wouldn't do like video games and things like that. And it ultimately worked quite well to a point. And minus fast forwarding 20 years and me doing the soundtracks to video games, but. Initially, it was just to kind of keep me in check from obsessing over the wrong thing. And So I didn't like it. I wanted to be a normal kid and not play 2 hours a day or even just 30 minutes. I wanted to be outside and talking with people. But alas, that did not happen. So I just kind of buried myself into my room and hated it for a couple of years, and ultimately started loving it when I started playing electric. And so from 7 to 12, it was like the odd years where I'd really like it, and I would just not care, then I might like it again. But I always just played on and off during that period until I was about 12.
Nice.
And then that bug bit, and I just became 8 to 10 hours a day type of guy.
Anything you can attribute that switch going off with? I mean, Pink Floyd got you into it, but what at that point, what set you on that path?
It's hard to say. I think my ear started to appreciate the instrument more, and to appreciate music more. I'd always enjoyed music, but I had never really had the same, connection with it. And so I can't quite recall what it was specifically, but I do remember there being just this undying need to just practice and get better. I wasn't particularly good at anything at that age, so I guess I just needed to be good at something, and it just happened to be guitar.
Interesting. And you said when you went electric, you got an electric guitar, and you still have it. What is it?
It's a first act.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. The action is 3 inches high, and the bridge is reversed, and will cut your hand if you rest on it. It's great.
Well, it keeps that palm off the bridge. That's important. Not.
So it was quite challenging to get used to playing that thing. But I later got on like a Les Paul, an Epi Les Paul, and that became my go-to for quite a while until I landed my first endorsement, which is a company that's no longer around, and I don't even know if it ever really was around. But it was a company out of Austin called Daniel Guitars. They make some really weird things, or made. There's a photo of it somewhere on my Instagram. It's this just hideous trapezoidal thing. But it was cool. It's like I got offered a guitar deal. So, of course, being the 15-year-old kid I was like, yes, I'll take it.
Sure.
Without knowing anything about it. And after that, I was Schecter, and then Music Man, and now Kiesel.
Nice.
Good, man.
Nice.
Our good buddy, Jeff Kiesel.
Oh, absolutely.
Give him a shout out.
Yeah, for sure. Good bud. So you started playing electric, and then you got really into it and better 3-4 years later. When did you hook up with like other people your age, other friends, and started to make some collective noise together?
I think the first like actual band environment I got involved with outside of like a school thing was when I was 14. And I don't think any of those guys still play. I don't think they even played a year later. But we started a band. I think it was called Flatline, which was already taken, but who cares? And then we proceeded to make absolutely terrible music for a few months in this kid's parents' basement. And it was bad. But I've got it on VHS somewhere of like an audition tape that was rejected instantly. And so we did that whole, and it was like punk music, and I never really got into punk, but I didn't know what else to do. And that's what I was offered, so I kind of started doing it and realized, oh, this is terrible. And left and started a new band, which was marginally better. And that became a good run, I suppose, and a very good learning experience on how to actually communicate with people in a dysfunctional family that is a musicians group.
Yeah, it certainly can be. What was the audition tape for?
I think it was like a Battle of the Bands type thing at the school, and I think we didn't get it because the sole word for the verses and chorus was the F word. So we that might be part of why it didn't work too well.
Well, it was punk, I mean.
Yeah.
Come on, it's kind of, it's part of the genre.
I mean, how else can you express your teenage angst, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, I do that, and I'm 50 years old.
There you go. Young at heart, Mick. Young at heart.
Yeah. Well,
I thought they were making an audition tape to audition to see whose parents' basement they could rehearse in, and they got rejected from everybody. So.
Well, the cops came and stopped it at my house, so we had to go find somewhere else.
Oh, you had that experience too.
Yeah. I think we've all lived that one.
Oh yeah, at least once. Oh, too funny. So, all right. So the band that was marginally better, did you play out anywhere? And was it at that point still punk? Was it covers? Was it originals that weren't punk? Like, how did it progress from there?
Yeah, that one. It was 2 guitars, bass, drums, and a singer for a while. And the singer was always a bit shaky. It became the drummer after a while he played drums with the diva mic, and then became a female at the end of it. But ultimately, it was like a mix of covers and original material, and was more like trying to get into the progressive realm. Like, I'd started listening to Dream Theater by that point, and just had felt that need to make everything as complex as possible, even though it didn't. Including like 3 Doors Down, Kryptonite. I remember trying to put that in like 7/8. It's like, what will it sound like?
That's awesome.
And I don't recommend it.
No, I didn't say it was good. I said the thought was awesome.
But we did
Wow,
quite a
that's
few
funny.
shows. I think we ended up having like 115 shows or something by the end of that career. So we played very frequently, and we got in touch with this guy named Max Frost, who is an up-and-coming pop artist. I don't know if you'll hate me for saying that, but I would consider him pop. And he's with Atlantic now. And so we used to play a lot with his band, which I don't remember what they're called. I think like the Blues Devils or something, or some very distinctly Austin group. Like Stevie knockoff type stuff. And it was quite good, but he was, I think, the reason why we had any shows, because none of us knew how to do anything at that point. It was just, we show up, we play. How do we go to the next place and play? And it was mostly through him that did it.
Nice. So at this point, you mentioned Austin. You're in Austin.
At this point, yeah. So I'd moved around quite a bit between like the UK and Russia and back to the United States.
Wow, interesting.
Because of your dad's job, or because you're young,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'm 26. So it was my father's job. Okay. He worked for MCI for a while, and then Alcatel, which is a French company.
Yeah, I know them.
Yeah, and ultimately became Nokia at the end of it all.
Yeah, we used to use Alcatel switches, and I'm a network engineer, so I've seen those boxes.
Oh, yeah.
They're very expensive.
Yeah, so he was the director of solutions for them, and so if anything broke, he'd go and fix it. So so I got a little bit of a computer knowledge from him, but it was mostly funneled through music.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very
well,
cool.
that's a common thing I'm finding out because of all the math. It's either airplane pilot, computer guy, and then there's one more. What was the other one, Jeff? I can't remember what the third one was. What a lot of guitar players will do. Oh God. If it's like career based, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think of what it is.
I can't remember.
Of course, I know guitar players, like smoking guitar players that are like
cooks,
physicists, and shit like that.
Yeah,
cooks.
chefs.
Oh, well, like,
remember?
Chefs. Yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
So it was like airplane.
I know quite a few of those.
Yeah, airplane pilots. Like a lot of math stuff. So it could be like computers, or it could be like physicists, that type of thing, and then cooks. That was the third one, and it was like, wow, that.
Most chefs are. There's a lot of chefs that are frustrated musicians, and a lot of musicians that are frustrated chefs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I know both sides of it. It's great. It's like food and music go together. They really do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both are essential.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Then I know physicists that are ridiculous guitar players too. And I don't know where the math enters into being a chef. Maybe more of a baker than a chef, but and that's just freaking arithmetic. But I know physicists that are just
here's a crazy.
They
one.
play like their mind works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
gotta have a day job these days.
If the doctor thing doesn't pan out, you can always fall back on music. Wow.
That's so
I think I'm going to trademark that statement.
Yeah, I mean, education's the next best thing to a record deal. So.
There you go. See, I love that.
Now, speaking of education, I got to ask, because I'm not going to say anything, but there was something that tipped me off when we were communicating, Alex, that looks like you went to Berkeley, or you have something doing at Berkeley.
Yeah, I went to Berkeley for 2.5 years.
There you go. That'll get your feet wet.
Yeah, and so
how did you go from Austin to Berkeley?
I moved.
Okay, I figured that.
No, I actually didn't initially want to go to Berkeley. Like, it was a childhood dream. Once you get into Dream Theater as a guitar player, you're like, oh, where did they learn how to do this? Berkeley, of course. So it's like, okay, I should go to Berkeley then. And so ultimately, I ended up wanting more so to stay in Texas and go to UNT for the jazz program. But my father essentially did not let that happen and just said, no, stop it, go to Berkeley. So I did. Wow. And so practice. I was doing like 12 hours a day preparing for that audition, sometimes even more. And my audition piece was Dream Theater is a Dance of Eternity, and I really hate that song at this point.
Why?
I had to do all 6 minutes, and I just cannot stand it. But so I did that for the audition, and did an interview, said I wanted to become a doctorate in music, which was probably true, momentarily, and then quickly became, wait a second, that sounds really terrible, and opted not to. And so thankfully I got accepted my first round and went off to Berkeley and started doing a major in film scoring and with a minor in guitar performance and music production engineering.
Wow.
Well,
I don't know that have we heard anybody, Mick, that actually took that direction of course in Berkeley?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's very cool.
No, we were talking to Philip Bino, and he said, "Yeah, I quit." I went 6 months later, or 6 weeks or something. He was like, "I just left."
I totally get it too. It's like there's a phrase that we have at Berkeley, which is no offense to those who do graduate, but it's essentially if you graduate, you failed, in the sense that like you weren't picked up along the way to go do something else.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And
that's crazy.
I ultimately ended up leaving early as well, and was picked up to do some like international touring. But my experiences at Berkeley ended up being quickly less of an educational situation to much more of an environmental, and being around players of that caliber every single day. And that to me was the most rewarding experience. I did learn a lot while I was there, mostly about production and how to actually mic a cabinet without, getting phasing or anything like that. But the environment was what was so spectacular.
Wow, interesting. That's like I said, I didn't really know that they went in that direction of the field of music, which is really cool. I thought that came from other schools, like the schools that were specifically set up for music production, video, audio. I could see maybe the aspect of teaching you how to score or something like that, but actually the actual physical, miking, recording, things like that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up having the #1 film scoring program in the nation. I think that was the year after I left that they got that ranking. I don't know if it was that before, but I left just before Berkeley opened up their new buildings and their new studios. So the equipment that we had wasn't, as good as it is now. But it was still very effective and pretty much all you needed to, do actual tracking. And thanks to Berkeley having good ties to the New England Conservatory, we were able to use each other's musicians quite frequently and, go practice recording orchestras and, learning how to actually mic up a sound stage properly. And of course, conducting itself is a requirement at Berkeley.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's very cool. So, how soon after leaving Berkeley did you find yourself actually doing something like that?
Okay, so this is where it gets a bit interesting. I had actually started working at Warner Brothers as a film composer before I went to Berkeley. So Berkeley was a bit of a quick afterthought in that process. I started working like a month or so before I was supposed to go to Berkeley. And my initial major at Berkeley was guitar performance, but my first teacher there, Mark White, told me that there's literally no point in doing it if I'd ever played a show in my life. So I was like, oh, well, okay, I'll just go to film scoring and see what else I can learn.
Wow.
Yeah, so I actually was already doing it. I'd already completed 2 documentaries by the time I came into Berkeley. And since then, it's just been mostly video game scoring and stuff like that.
So how did you get connected with the video game end of things?
At Warner, they assign projects sometimes, and if not, then they usually ask for specific composers, and we just decide who is best fit for that project. And so when I did Crisis 3 back in 2012, I had started working on more of like the heavy metal side of soundtracks for a few documentaries I'd done, and they liked that style of, it's like, how do I describe it? Kind of like the Megadeth of film scores.
Okay.
So I started doing a lot of those types of things, and they liked it. So I ended up getting assigned to doing the action sequences for that game, where it's pretty much writing the music that makes you want to shoot things. And yeah, and so that was mostly what I ended up doing for that project. And then we had another composer do the cinematic sequences, and I hadn't had much experience at that point with those. But now I've been working on a new video game for the last 3 years. It's quite involved, and I've flown up to New York City to go do some recording in Avatar, and back down, and then off to Burbank to go and record some orchestras there. And it's literally like 2.5 hours of music for this video game. It's just been very involved.
Wow.
You said record some orchestras. So are you? How many aspects of this do you actually perform? Is a lot of it guitar tracking, but do you also compose for orchestra and then actually physically do the engineering to record the orchestra? What are the functions that you do?
Good question. So for some of the soundtracks, there is no need for anything more than just guitar, bass, and drums. And maybe a few electronic elements. But for other soundtracks, obviously, you do need an orchestra, and I try to keep it as authentic as possible. So in my studios, I have 60 plus guitars, and all range of guitars. So not just Kiesels, not just Music Man. I've got sitars, I've got balalaikas, kotos, and all these different things. If I'm ever needed to use them for something, I've got the option to do it. And so as far as the orchestra goes, I can only play brass really well. I used to do marching band and stuff like that. So I do not play violin, and so I can't, physically record it because I'm not, trained to do it. So I also try to avoid using sample libraries when I can, just because, authenticity in a big, feature game or a soundtrack is really important to me. So it's a whole lot of begging and, hoping that the budget gets approved. And whenever they say yes, I'm able to go do that and actually go and, set up everything for an orchestra and, go record it and write it all out and, just get it done.
Wow, that's That's a handful, man.
You ain't kidding. Wow. That's a handful.
Wow.
Is dealing with the unions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the worst part.
So what do they do? They just, you have to follow their rules more or less?
Yeah, so last time I did one up in New York City, there was a blizzard that came through and essentially forced me into a full day of recording cut down into like 3 hours. And that's all I had. And it was probably the most stressful moment of my life, of trying to make sure that everybody knew what the hell they were doing, miking it all up, and just getting it done properly. And so doing 2.5 hours of music in 3 hours with pretty much no ability to reschedule.
Wow.
That was what I had to deal with.
Wow.
That's crazy,
yeah,
man.
No pressure there. No pressure there. Yeah.
And if I had missed it, then we would have been out $15,000, and I would have gotten
$15,000.
Yeah, it's expensive.
$15,000 for 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean it was supposed to be for a lot more. So, but the money's still out there from the unions because the time is still there. You can't just predict the weather, so it's a very costly thing to do and get 80 people in the room and to just bow some strings for a couple hours.
Time is money, man, and that's union wages, and it is what it is. What can you say what that was for?
I can't tell you the title, so no, but I can tell you it's a video game, and it'll be out someday.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there you go.
Man, there's just so many aspects of this. It's I don't know where I want to go next. That is just so interesting and impressive to me. Just the fact that you can do all that, the fact that you're one of the guys that actually does all that.
Yeah,
that's really, really cool. But let's get to. I got one more question about it. Once you get everything recorded, do you then take it back? Do you have your own studio that you then start doing the mixing, the editing, the special sauce, whatever you do to that, and present them with the final product? Or do you present them with something that they then need to take and do a bunch of editing on? And do you have to edit to like a movie or a game at some point, like the video to it? How does that part of it work?
So I do almost all of the edits. So just making sure that, if there's any overlapping that needs to be taken care of, or crossfading, and of course automation, and then, some EQing and reverb. So I handle that side of things. I try to avoid mixing myself for big projects just because I'm a little bit too timid, I suppose. I don't trust my ear enough because I'm very scatterbrained when it comes to these things. And so I'll happily mix small numbers of things, but not 80 plus tracks, which is just very challenging. And I think the largest I've ever actually done was 127 tracks, and that took probably a month and a half of, and it's like a 2-minute long thing, and it took a month and a half of mixing just to make it.
Wow!
Holy crap!
Yeah, it was horrible.
128 tracks?
Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh my God.
Sounds cool at the end, but it's just a nightmare.
Now are these? Now, it's not 128 different instruments, but is it a lot of different instruments doing multiple parts, or is it like 1 or 2 or 3 or sound effects and stuff like that? I mean, that's a lot of tracks, man.
Yeah, that one also had like the sound design involved. So like footsteps and like it sounds like if you're climbing, and I had to essentially Foley design of all of it, and so I had to record that and put it in there. And also, and to answer another one of Jeff's questions, yeah, you do have to line it up with the cues in the soundtrack. So it's rare that so here's another way to put it. So take Lord of the Rings, James Newton Howard. The songs that you hear within the film are always edited and cut specifically, but the soundtracks that are released are like the full thing. So the full thing compared to what you hear in the film are very different and totally edited down and lined up appropriately. So it's obnoxiously involved. So
sure.
Yeah.
The time cues and everything else. Wow. Yeah.
The only guy that we've had, what was his name, Jeff? I'm going through our archives here. And Marcus Henderson.
Oh, Marcus.
Marcus was involved with Guitar Hero.
Yes.
All he had to do was just come up with the music for the song that they were copying for the video.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they had to, that's
right.
all
He had to re-record covers of all the things.
That's the only guy we've talked to that has that had anything to do with video games. And he started that early on, because I can remember talking to Marcus, back in the Buddha days. Yeah.
And he was heavily involved in the
he was at the original. He was the original Guitar Hero, and then all the different versions after. But this sounds like it's insane, man. Like there's a lot of parts and pieces moving, and man, I hope they're paying you well.
Yeah, I mean it's not glorious or anything, but it does allow me to do what I want to do, essentially.
So let's get back to what you want to do, which I'm hoping is guitar playing, and maybe it's skydiving. I don't know, but I mean, you have all the videos, lots of videos out and everything. Do you do that out of just sheer enjoyment for doing that, and how did you start, and why did you decide to start putting them out?
It is all out of enjoyment. I have to remind myself periodically throughout, the year why I started in the first place. Whenever I start to get a bit obsessed over specific projects, and you start to kind of despise them a little bit. So it's very important for me as a musician to always remember what made me keep doing this. And so it is out of love and just the feeling you get. So like in a lot of my videos, you'll see me close my eyes, and that's very much why. It's just, smiling because I just get to do it. And if you ever see me live, it's very much the same thing. I don't really keep my eyes open a whole lot. But what made me decide to put the videos out was it was when I was endorsing Music Man, and they sent me the Majesty 7.
That's a nice guitar.
Yeah, it was nice. And a friend of mine, German Schaus, who's done a whole bunch of really awesome neoclassical books, he requested I put out a video so that he could hear it, and I was very much against doing it because I know that the internet is a brutal place, and I was not quite ready to do it. But ultimately, I just said, screw it, I'll do it, put it out. Just like some stupid thing that ended up becoming lick number 1, and people seem to like it, and so I just thought, hey, maybe I'll put the tabs out too, and just put them out there, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're a saint, and and I was really confused. It's like, what, do people not give away the tabs? And then I started to realize that people charge for it, or they request that you share the video, and I just realized, oh, maybe I should just give the tabs away for free every single time because it's such minimal work. And that's kind of the start of it all.
And
wow. Now,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you said it's such minimal work. How do you generate the tabs?
Exactly.
Right.
I use Guitar Pro 7 now, but back then I was using Guitar Pro 6. And so for all my transcription work with Scale to Summit, etc., I always use Guitar Pro, and it's just super easy for me.
Now let me take a half a second. We're not endorsed by Guitar Pro, but if they're listening, and you guys want to sponsor the show, we'd be more than glad. I've used Guitar Pro since version 3, I want to say.
Oh, wow.
Let me tell you something. It is a very, very nice tool. You can not only can you score music on there, you can actually dump the MIDI file, which will work in any DAW, and you can assign stuff. Now, granted, it's kind of rudimentary, but you can, and it also plays back an audible sound, Jeff. So
wow.
You could play all 3 guitar parts, 2 guitar parts, the bass player. Even a lot of guys will put a flute for the vocals, and then you can do the drums on it. I mean, you can score this thing out. Now, what's really cool is there's a community, right? And the community puts their tabs up. And when you're working on something or you want to know how something goes, you can go into the Guitar Pro tab. I think it's .net or something like that. But you can go in there, search for the artist or the song, and you may have like 5 different versions. And the easiest way to tell which one is probably the better one is it'll have the most hits. It'll have the most downloads on it. And they show you that number. Mm-hmm. And you can isolate the tracks. You can loop certain sections of it. I mean, I learned the solo for Hotel California from it. Just because I just got it, brought it down, said I want to learn this tonight, and I learned the not the harmony part at the end, but I learned all the beginning stuff with was it Glenn Don Felder and
Glenn Fry
and Glenn Fry, yeah, right. And I just went back and forth and just you can take these sections. The nice part about it is, see, there's a lot of tab, right? I mean, there's books. There's tons of books. Most of the magazines that are put out every month, they have tab in the back. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that you can't manipulate it. You can't slow it down. You can't train a certain section of it and actually hear it. So it's like you can play along with what you're doing, and it's not the artist. It's a MIDI file. And let me tell you, man, it is a really nice tool when you're stumped or you just, you're kind of time constrained, and you need to learn this. It is a really nice tool to use, and they've improved it every single version to where it's even easier.
I should be going there when somebody like Rob calls out, hey, we're going to do this tonight. And it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, so instead of beating your head against the ground, trying to figure out, like, what is that chord, because it's kind of ringing weird, the Guitar Pro site, I guarantee you somebody will have it, and it will be the correct chord.
Interesting.
Because you got guys like Alex that dump these things up there.
Right? Well, I'll probably never be able to use his. There's just, that's...
So that's my endorsement for Guitar Pro. So if you guys want to sponsor the show, give me an email and we'll talk.
That's cool, man. I've never used it. I'm going to have to go check it out now.
I was kind of skeptical at first. And then when I got it, I was like, oh my God, where's this thing been?
Wow.
And it's so obvious too. And now I think with Guitar Pro 7, you can actually like plug your guitar into the through an interface.
Yes.
And it'll tab out what you play.
Oh, I did not know that.
See, well, that's how that's why I asked how do you do the tabs, because you said they're so easy to do. I figured you were using something like that.
Oh, I actually don't use that feature for my transcriptions. I'm quite old fashioned.
Wow.
So it's I've used transcribe for like audio manipulation if I need to slow something down from an isolated track or from the CD, and then I just listen through and tab it out. So that's kind of how I do it my way.
So you actually have to click on the staff, which would be the fretboard, I guess, and put each number for corresponding fret, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a little
laborious.
That's tedious.
It can take a while, but also, that like if I was just to do it that way without any dynamics, then it'd be quite, unemotive. And I really try to make it as authentic as possible, which is partly what allowed me to, get into actual transcriptions for people where I get paid to transcribe music, and it's really just my obsessive nature to make it look as pretty as possible. So. Like including, forte, mezzo forte, the dynamics and the nuance markings and phrasings and all those types of things. So, like to give you an example, when I was doing the Scale the Summit record, one of the solos was Nick Johnston, and transcribing his stuff is an absolute nightmare. Just trying to make it sound, and tab it exactly as he played it is very difficult. And you won't be able to do it unless you do use those dynamic markings that they provide you, that's in actual notation. So just one of those things that, at Berkeley, you learn how to do it properly and, which way does the staff go, which, should you go over the, third beat? The correct answer to that is no. And, just things like that. So, and also how to actually group the notes instead of, is it a 16th note triplet or is it a sextuplet? Which one is it? I don't know.
Well, at that point, isn't it just open to interpretation?
You know, Jeff, Alex knows our good buddy, Miss Gretchen Menn.
Oh, nice.
And of course
she's pretty
he
remarkable.
does, because he composes like a madman and she composes like a mad woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing. Absolutely amazing. One of my biggest inspirations whenever I get to play anything that is a bit more emotional than just shred. So she's always been a fantastic player.
Yeah. And, Daniela Guitardo, he's nothing to sneeze at either.
No.
Seriously.
I saw that guy playing the other day. I was like, what in the world? Just unreal, man. You know?
Yeah.
So, wow, how about that? See, it's a small world, Jeff, even though it's separated by, a lot of ocean and cable.
Water. As somebody said, water. Lots of water. I won't go any further.
So
what was that?
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. What was that, Alex?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
So, Alex, you're endorsed by Kiesel. How did you meet Jeff and the crew over there?
So I met them through my good friend Dan Sugarman, who is actually with me right now. We are in the middle of filming hundreds of videos for our new company, which I might talk about a little bit later on.
Well, hello, Dan.
He's not in the room right now. He's out, I think, in the living room.
Oh, okay.
But so he introduced me. He'd been trying to get me to drift from Music Man to go to Kiesel for a while. And at NAMM, he took me to go meet Jeff and Manny Huerta when he was still working there, the head of A&R. Mm-hmm. And, I was like, this is cool, whatever. But Music Man is like my dream guitar. And I just wasn't really interested at the time. But then this past year in January, I decided that, now it made sense for me. And I just ultimately left Music Man and switched to Kiesel. So it was very nice. Like, Jeff remembered me and everything, and had been, messaging me periodically throughout the year. And Manny has always been a wonderful person. So it just, it feels very much like a family, and I love it. The guitars are, of course, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Jeff is, he's turned that thing around, man.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's looking at Kiesel guitars now and going, oh, yeah, those things. No, it's like, oh.
Yeah, they seem to be doing very well and making a mark in the business. And unfortunately, the other half just wound up closing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Goodbye, Carvin.
Yeah, that was crazy.
No more of those catalogs with the 800 speakers in the middle of it.
God, I used to love those.
Oh, yeah. It's just back in the 80s, you'd get a, 8.5 by 11 magazine. And it was their catalog, and you'd open up to that centerfold, and there'd be nothing but like 150 folded horns out in a field somewhere.
Exactly.
And like a 48-channel board and 12 power amps.
That was engineer porn right there, man.
Yeah, and with a price tag of like $48,000 or something crazy.
Wholesale. It's wholesale to the public.
Buy direct.
There you go. Buy direct.
Yeah, and the buy direct thing still works out really well for Kiesel guitars.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I've talked about my old Carvin DC 127 that I bought years ago, probably when you were 4 years old, and right before you started playing guitar, and
right.
And I remember, I did a custom order, and they built it to the exact word, and this was before the internet really was doing anything, so it was all on phone. I had to do it over the phone. I live on the East Coast, they're on the West Coast, and I remember the craziest part of it was I just in passing I told them that I tuned down a half a step, and when I got the guitar, like in mid-February, it was freezing. The guitar was tuned down a half step.
And in perfect tune.
3,000 miles in the back of a UPS truck, probably being danced around like nobody's business. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive. And,
that's customer service.
Yeah, well, when you're selling direct, you have to be on or you're going to not sell anything.
Yeah.
And And I remember your story, and they could have. I mean, they literally could have sent you something that was subpar because yours was a custom order and it was non-returnable.
Non-returnable, yeah, because I'd had all the knobs taken off except for the one volume, and the guy went, "When you do this, it's a non-returnable item." And I went, "Okay, well, I don't want to have a hole in the guitar, so yeah, send it to me." And like you said, Jeff, they could have just put a bunch of wood in a box and sent it to me and said, "Good luck." But no.
It was a guitar when it left here.
Bag of sawdust,
Build your own, yeah. We put the screws in there, right? Yeah, just build your own.
So we didn't ask him what amps.
I know. I was going to get to the gear, and if you do live playing, what is your live rig like, and is it different than studio, and what do you use in the studio? So give us a little bit of a rig rundown here.
Cool. So I'll start with live. At this point, I endorse Mesa Boogie. So I run a Mesa 2100 power amp for my Kemper. And my Kemper powers this ridiculous board that I've had way too much fun building. So it's just like the Kemper remote going into, it doesn't go in anything. It's just a Kemper remote. But then you've got volume pedal, 2 Mission Engineering MIDI controllers, Dunlop wah, and a bunch of fun Digitech like oscillation type things. So that's really cool. And then my speakers are a Mesa, just 4x12. Mm-hmm. And so I usually run mono, but on a big enough stage, or I've just got the time to work out my back and carry 2 4x12s, and I'll do stereo.
Nice. So you were saying your Kemper. There's the output of your Kemper go into the effects, into the pedal board, or vice versa.
So it's kind of just like running it like a standard amp. So all the Mesa does is power the Kemper, because I chose to not get the powered version. Okay. And then it just essentially goes guitar board into the Kemper, and then the Kemper out goes to the speakers.
Okay. Wow. That's kind of a traditional thing. It would definitely make more sense. I was thinking, wow, somehow is he using the Kemper as like an amplifier, and then sending what would be the sound of a full-blown amplifier then through the effects, and then out to be powered by the power amp. That would be interesting too.
I like where you're going with this, Jeff.
Yeah, man. Well, honestly, it's like some of the rigs in the 80s. I remember when Bradshaw was making rigs. I think he made a rig for Luke, where the first thing that the guitar saw was the amplifier, and the amplifier was the little mini Marshall 12-watt head that used to come on top of those 2 little cabinets with the 10s in them. You remember that head?
The micro Marshalls, I think, is what
it's something like it. Yeah, it was like a 12-watt head.
Yeah,
whatever. It was the first small thing. It was all solid state, and he would dump that into a load and then take that signal and run it into the refrigerator full of processing gear, and then to a power amp. And to the speaker cabs. So it was the entire sound of the amplifier, and then it was processed, kind of like what you would do in the studio. That's recreating. It's like we're going to get, plug a guitar into an amplifier, get the sound of the amplifier cooking and everything in the studio, then mic it and send it through all the studio grade effects.
Wow.
That's
how
you
wet, dry, wet rig, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely can be, for sure. Yeah. You can take the one dry signal out of the amp, put it into a dry power amp and run that for your center, and then also take tap off that signal and run it into all the refrigerator rack full of effects and come out of that stereo into a couple power amps. But he was basically recreating a studio environment for a live stage thing,
which is just utterly brilliant and very expensive.
Oh yeah.
both of those, yes.
And now he has this Kemper that does
right.
God only knows. Now, what are your profiles based off of?
I do a lot of like the 5150 profiles, and so in the studio it's very similar. Like depends if I'm doing 7-string or 8-string stuff. I typically change it up, just because the 5150 gets a bit mushy for the 8-string.
Doesn't everything really get mushy?
It's all about the EQ and the gain. It's been like one of the biggest fights. So like on the new Sikani record, it's there's quite a bit of 8-string on it, and switching to Kiesel and allowing like between the Vader or the DC-800. They're very different, and both are very snarly. And trying to keep that snarl alive in a recording session is such a challenge. So it's just dropping a bit of the gain out, but still trying to have enough where it doesn't sound too different from the rest of the album. It's a little bit tiring trying to find what is the best balance between the two, but it's mostly 5150 or like a 5152. I think it has like the closest sound for what we need. Gotcha. And ultimately what I like. So it's funny, it's like a mix of powering a 5150.
Do you use any of the multi-scale stuff that Kiesel offers for those low string stuff?
I do have a Kiesel multi-scale Solo 7, it's like the Telecaster.
Okay.
And funnily enough, it was actually Chris Letchford's from Scale the Summit in the Warden music video. So it's the guitar he's playing in that music video I actually own. And so it's a really pretty poplar burl, one-piece poplar burl top. And it's got a royal ebony fingerboard that is like half and half. So you've got, like the maple side and the ebony side.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't used it in recording yet, but it's definitely different playing multi-scale.
Yeah, I heard the tension stays a little bit more even, so you can really go with those cables for the low strings, especially like the 8-string stuff, and it feels kind of balanced across the guitar. But I guess it does take a little bit getting used to because it is kind of the same tension, right? Isn't that what it does? It kind of evens that tension out all the way across.
You're probably right. I just haven't noticed it. I'm quite the just standard guitar player who like to just play and not care. So I play like Ernie RPS strings, which are the basic steel strings with nothing interesting about them.
Yeah.
And like that's perfect for me because like I just put them on and not give a shit. And it's great. And same thing with like before it was with Kemper and all this extra pedal board stuff. I just used standard effects processors and didn't care about anything else. And then I realized how not so great it sounded in this day and age. So it's like I should probably upgrade. And but yeah, it's just like I need the guitar to do a specific set of things, and anything more I just don't care about. Nor do I notice like the difference between 28.625 inch scale necks versus 28. Like I don't care.
That's great.
It'll play.
Right.
Well, when I'm watching the videos, Jeff, I think you've seen one or two maybe, but I'm just like, I don't know how does that sequence run in your head? I don't even know how it runs in John's head. When you're doing the Dream Theater stuff, I'm like, this is like a sea of notes, and it is everywhere, all over the neck. And I'm like, how do you slice this pie up when you want to start figuring it out and then recreating it?
So it's funny because there's a saying that I've been realizing while working with Dan. It's like the guitar player's vision, where you see everything in like half speed, and so while it looks wicked fast on camera, in your head, it's just really slow. And I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but that's kind of how it is whenever I play guitar or play something really quickly.
I really don't have an option, Alex, when I play, whether it comes out fast or slow.
Right. I was going to say that you have to get it out fast first before you can experience that. So I'll never have that experience.
If you're seeing it in slow motion, I'm seeing it like what a sloth does.
I understand.
but anyway, go ahead. I don't want to take away from that. So when you see it, you're seeing it kind of really slowed down, right? I mean, like you said.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly just because, for at least the Dream Theater stuff, there's a bit of muscle memory there. I've done it for quite a while, so I'm not, unfamiliar with how I'll be playing it. And so in a sense, it's kind of like second nature. It's very simple. But when I was learning it when I was younger, all of it came down to just taking it, a couple measures at a time, getting that comfortable, like where it doesn't feel awkward, and then slapping on, another 2 measures and playing those 4, and then bringing another 2 and playing those 6. And that also helps with memorization. and just recognizing where certain patterns begin. So the trick that I learned is that with dream theater and most odd meter type things, breaking it down to 1s, 2s, and 3s for your subdivisions make all the difference in the world.
Wow.
And so for like 7/8, you'd be like 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. So where your 1s are your accents and everything else is just a filler. So you'd get like that 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. Or if you wanted to flip your accent, it'd be like 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, and then it's still 7/8. Your feel of it's just different. And so if you can think of that as you're playing, or at least in the beginning stages of playing that phrase, when you're learning it, it makes things really simple to digest, I think.
That's an awesome lesson right there. I mean,
that truly is.
Yeah,
that truly is.
I would have never thought of looking at it that way.
It kind of gives you quick points of reference, I guess, or for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Like the accents are like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
Gives you almost every accent is almost like a starting point, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah. And it applies to your picking as well. So the big thing about Petrucci is alternate picking. And so if you can remember if you're supposed to be starting on a downstroke or an upstroke, or if you're landing on a downstroke or an upstroke, that can help you kind of force your hand into that specific position. So like, for instance, sweep picking. Sweep picking is something that I never actually practiced. I just did. And I didn't do it well initially, but I was just way too lazy to sit there and play arpeggios at 70 BPM. It just was frustrating. Like, I'm never going to sweep that slow. I'll always pick it that slow, so why bother? And so I ultimately just started picking an arpeggio and sweeping it as best as I could and seeing how it fit in time. So I had, say it's like just a sextuplet arpeggio, so 6 notes per beat. I would just play it over and over and over again with the metronome at like 120 until all those notes fit perfectly within that. So, they had the same ratio. And
my mind is blown. Alex, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've talked to Tony McAlpine. We have talked to Greg Howe. I mean, we have a list of people on our site. I don't think we've talked to anybody that has put in
Gilbert,
Paul Gilbert. Yeah. The time and dedication and just the sheer hours that you have. I mean, and the composing and transcribing. Jeff, we've had Bumblefoot on, we've had Paul Gilbert, we've had Bruce Bouillet, we've had Greg Mara. I mean, we've had a lot of guys who can put a lot of notes in a very small area, but not to like the capacity of like the
analyticals behind it.
Yeah, like knowing every aspect of that, and then of course producing it. I mean, making here it is. Here's the tab for it, by the way, and that is amazing, man. I mean, well, obviously you were playing, like you said, 12 plus hours a day at one point. I guess that lends for a lot of 2 measures, figuring it out, going to the next 2. That's just unbelievable, man. That's dedication beyond belief.
Well, thank you so much. You to say.
I mean, that's like borderline. Have you seen a shrink? Because that's like borderline.
I told you it was obsessive.
It definitely seems, like you want to, because the playing is flawless. That's the piece that really gets me. It's one thing when you see a guy do some of that stuff, but it's like it's absolutely spot on. And if anybody gives you a bad comment, they need their head checked.
I do love the people who say I fake my videos.
You fake your video? How the hell could you fake that?
That's what I say. They say, I can see that you speed it up. It's like, no, mate, that's not what I'm faking.
Wow.
Well, okay. Say you sped it up. Who's going to remember all that slow, too? I mean, you know what I mean? You got to play it in time with something. And if it was even slowed up, it's a truckload of notes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the audio that they claim is sped up; it's the video, which is interesting. Like the audio is fine, but the video itself is like, no. The only video editing knowledge I have is like cut here, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
Wow,
join these two sections together here.
I'm blown away by this. I
Wow.
mean, it's just the information that you just give us. It's like, and then all that composing, and my God, I mean,
well, and I just, I don't want to run too long. As I know Alex's time. He gets paid by the note, so this is really expensive time. But you did mention a new business.
Yes,
Why don't you give us that for a minute here?
I digress.
Yeah. So my friend Dan Sugarman, who used to be known as Blood Runs Black, he is an absolutely exceptional guitar player. And he and I put out a song last year, which Dunlop picked up and put out to demo some of their products. Oh. So we've been really close, and we share the same, psychology behind what do we need to do as musicians, and how do we kind of extrapolate on what has already been said 1,000 times as far as playing guitar goes. So we focus a lot on our educational side as to how to actually answer the questions that everybody has in a way that's never been answered before. So Dan and I and a man from New York City named Sandeep Ramesh, we have started an all-encompassing music education community named Everfret. And so we've launched the Instagram. We've got hundreds of videos that we're shooting right now. And then we've got a very large curriculum as well that is kind of structured towards people who don't have time to practice, who have maybe 20 minutes, and that's it. And beyond that, we've got much more planned and in the works. So the ultimate concept comes down to like guitar as the 8-minute abs type thing, and
Nice.
And so how to get to our levels by just being able to sit there and practice for 20 minutes, and how to practice and what to do appropriately. So we focus more on the why and the when than just the how, because everyone will tell you how to play a lick. That's all my licks are, is essentially, this is what it is. It's a demonstration. But when would you play them? How would you incorporate them? And also, why would you do it? So that's our goal, is to answer all those questions for every technique on guitar, as well as the philosophical aspects, the guitar myths, multi-scale versus standard scale, as well as, just anecdotes that, Dan and I feel have been helpful for us growing and being on tour and having to manage, money, as well as, people's personalities while you're on the road. We're essentially just creating a company that is going to answer every question you could possibly have in music.
How about that?
That is awesome.
It's totally cool. And, that one piece that you were talking about, I've often said it, right? Like I would learn some, quick scale thing that, like Yngwie piece or something like that. And I was like, well, that's cool. Because, now I can play this part of this Yngwie thing. But now what do I do with it?
Like, where would I use it?
Yeah. How can I shove it into something that maybe I'm using and change it up a little bit, but make it, where it's not sounding like where they go, hey, that sounds like Yngwie, Yeah. So that's a cool thing. And I'm all about 8-minute abs. And because when you're holding down a job, and a lot of musicians have to hold down a job now, it's kind of tough to put those hours in.
Hours and hours and hours. Yeah.
And if you,
wow,
man, that is cool. So we're following you now on Instagram, and
awesome.
And want to tell all of our listeners, you guys should go out there and follow this, because it's that's a cool thing, man.
It sounds like this hasn't launched yet. Any idea when you might, or has it?
We've started launching the socials. And the website is now up for email listing. So you can sign up and get updates that way at everfret.com. Mm-hmm. But the full launch, I'm expecting it to be probably in January. But we are launching a secondary system called Dr. Stringlove, after, the man himself, Dr. Strangelove. And the concept on this is, taking the 8-minute abs and breaking it down to 1 minute. And so this is designed for Instagram and just little tricks, pointers, and things that are again on the same playing field as why would you do this, when would you do this, and of course as well as the how.
That is
wow.
Cool.
I'm
sorry for my dog barking. If you guys,
I definitely want to keep an eye out for this. Yeah. Mick, give me links and stuff. I really
yeah. And I'm gonna, by the way, and as we always do, all of your social, all of your website stuff, the Everfret stuff, that is all going to live under the episode in
perpetuity.
Yes, because you guys need to go out, and I'm talking about our listeners. You guys need to go out and check this stuff out. This may not be your thing because it may be like, hey, I'm not a shredder. Doesn't matter. Any education is good education if it's pointing you in the right direction. And,
absolutely.
Alex is just jammed full of knowledge. So it's like I always say, if you can pick somebody's brain and they're willing to give you that information, you're a fool not to take it. So,
and look, you might see something here that is presented to you in a shred speed kind of form,
exactly.
Basic, but you might learn this and decide that it's very useful at half the speed in something else that you're playing or composing or whatever. So, just because you can't shred doesn't mean it's not useful information. That's the way I'm looking at it, because I know I'm never going to be able to shred, but I want the information.
Play Steely Dan.
Totally.
You're not shredding, right?
No, right, exactly.
But it's hard as hell to play it. Well, there's a reason, because it's complicated music. So, I mean, if you look, it doesn't have to be at blazing speed. It can be a very difficult piece. This kind of stuff will help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's stuff for everybody as well. So it's not just the shredders, but at this point we are focusing a bit more on like metal techniques, so things for like a modern metal musician.
Sure.
Just because it's a really good way to bridge the gap, and also that's where Jen and I mostly come from. So we already have quite a big community around it. And if anyone's interested in testing our products as well, we have the Everfret Test Collective on Facebook, and that's a group that we run and allows us to test ideas and kind of get feedback and see what you guys actually want more than just what we think you want. So it's part of the community. It's very immersive, and if you want to join, anybody's welcome to. And you can start testing these things out with us.
That is so cool.
That's fantastic.
Hey, you going to be at NAMM?
I will be at NAMM, yeah.
And guess who else will be?
I think we'll be there.
That's right. We're going to shake your hand. Hopefully, it's not like crazy strong, because as many notes has passed over those fingers, I'm sure you could probably crack a walnut with your pinky and your thumb. But we'll definitely have to shake your hand, man, because this is just way too cool.
That is, man. And good luck with that. It really sounds like something that's unique and original.
Yeah, man.
Well, thank you so much. We're really trying, and the String Love stuff should be hopefully out in a month or so, and just gearing up towards the big launches. And it's going to be constantly evolving, and our mission is really just to help literally anybody that has never gotten what they needed out of any other company.
That's awesome.
That right there.
Yeah.
Man, believe me. I've got a sea of tapes and books, and you can imagine.
Yeah, that's right. We go back when you used to have to order the VHS and wait for it to show up, and
Hey, and I'm not even saying anything bad about the guy, but all we had was Doug Marks.
Oh, totally.
Metal Method baby.
Hey man, we've had people on the show that's who got them started.
Hell yeah.
And they're ridiculous players.
Yeah.
So good on him, man.
No,
Absolutely.
Doug is the man. He was the pioneer of it. Now look, you see Alex and his compadres, they're putting it together to giving you something that you can really, sink your teeth into if you don't have a lot of time. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, Alex, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully we'll get to see you at NAMM. And, man, just much continued success with everything. Yeah. It sounds fantastic.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show.
Oh, well, thank you very much for taking the time, like I said. And, good luck, man. And safe travels out to NAMM. Hopefully we get to hook up with you.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. Take care.
All right. Take care, man. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
As a special offer to our audiences, warbyparker.com will give you a 5-day home try-on complete with 5 pairs of glasses to choose. Just go to warbyparkertrial.com/AAA to get a free 5-day home try-on. Warby Parker makes buying glasses online easy and risk-free. Their home try-on program allows customers to order 5 pairs of glasses to be shipped directly to them where they can try them on in the comfort of their own home. For every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to someone in need. Warby Parker makes buying glasses fun, easy, and pain-free. Warby Parker keeps their styles highly curated, fashion-forward, and extremely wearable while including high-quality lenses and coatings at no additional cost. Warby Parker makes your experience completely risk-free and free shipping all around. Visit warbyparkertrial.com/AAA to begin your free home trial-on experience today.
And there you have the story.
I know I'm guffawing, but man, I'm telling you what, that is crazy knowledge.
You know, I mean, what is this? 2 guests in a row now that started playing when they were like 5.
Yeah, what is?
You know,
this guy's 26 years old.
Yeah.
26. I mean,
yeah.
He is like, if this is I can't imagine, what is in store for us if he maintains this and just keeps moving forward. And that whole training thing, the lesson thing and all that is just awesome.
That sounds fantastic. It really does. Man. I wasn't BSing when I said I really want to take a look at this because it's not all about the shred. Right. I can give something 20 minutes. And even if I wind up coming out of it half speed,
Jeff,
it's more knowledge.
It's exactly it. It's not like, everybody goes, you can't teach a old dog new. I don't believe that. I don't ever believe that. Look, if you get into that mentality, I think you're done. Because especially in today's world, now I don't mean that you have to be in the latest metal band, but you have to kind of, if it comes at you, you kind of have to maybe go, well, okay, it's not exactly my cup of tea, but that piece of it was pretty damn cool. I need to learn that. And even at half speed, it sounds great. So why would you throw that away?
I mean, I'm playing more now than I have in quite a while, and I'm learning all the time. Like when I play alongside Kyle in Rhythm Surf, he is very good at legato runs.
Oh yeah, he is.
Which I'm not good at, but I pick up things from him all the time. And it's like someday, I'm going to do one and you're going to look over to my side of the stage and go, wow, where'd that come from? It came from watching him.
Yeah.
I
mean,
so
look,
I learn
off.
every time. Right. It all rubs off. So, if you could put in 20 minutes a day or, 20 minutes 3 or 4 times a week, do it. You'll learn something.
Yeah. And you figure this guy's done all the hard work. He had 12 plus hours a day for God knows how many years. People, that is nothing to sneeze at. That is literally a full-time overtime job.
Yeah, for sure. So cool, man.
It's awesome stuff, man.
We're
doing so good with these guys, man. I love this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Kyle and Rhythm Surf,
yes.
I know I'm just going to mention it again. The new CD that we did is out.
Oh yes.
Rhythm Surf Monkeys. The CD is called RSM.
That's right.
And CD Baby, iTunes. If you want to download, CD Baby actually has products. So get the product.
Is it on Google Play? I think it is.
I'll have to check. It might be. Yeah.
For your Android friends out there.
There you go.
If your Android friends, if they don't have something, then they're kind of screwed. And I bet you, I think I heard him say it was on Google Play. Which, hey, look, CD Baby ought to work over there. Hey, look, pick it up. All right, PayPal.
Yeah. See if you like it. We had fun doing it, man.
Oh man, awesome stuff. So until next time, my friend.
That's right, because we're going to have more awesome stuff.
Oh, yeah. You wait until next week's guest.
Right.
My name is Mick Marcelino.
Yes, it is. I know that for a fact.
And you are?
And I think I'm Jeff Bober.
Always. And we're always saying.
Onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmsonAxis. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaccesscast.com. Thanks for listening.